You
I was about to say,
Go ahead, you can do the
Yeah,
honors.
it could have been a whole EP listening party, honestly.
You know what I'm
You weren't
saying?
this thing popping.
Notebook is something
If you don't know
serious.
what I'm talking about and you're catching the recording, or you weren't listening, you missed out. You got to get here between 10:35 and 11:05 to hear the vibes. But shout out Chi-Town, shout out everybody hopping on. Good morning, team. I'm excited to dive back into the discussion. And before we hop in there, one, for those who are catching the recording and aren't on here and were on last week, but those who are on here from last week, y'all snapped. I got to catch the recording over this week, and it was really cool. I was salty. I was definitely, as Tia would say, a salty biscuit listening to the recording because I had missed it in person working. But I appreciated the value as well as the insights of where you guys are at in your personal lives, the vulnerability, and on top of it, how you guys are applying the principles of the book into not just your psychological state of mind, but also in the manifestation of what it is you're going after, and in the manner of which you're going after it. So I'm grateful for it. Shout out, I seen the flip phone girl. You know what I'm saying? Look clean. That was one of the, bro, it had me laughing. I was like, oh my gosh, she did not just get a Barbie flip. I was like, that's definitely money. Okay, but I've seen all the vibes. And y'all, this book has been extremely transformative in terms of, confirmational on the things that we've been learning and applying, but also like just seeing the perspective of this gentleman who is honestly getting continued mentorship from somebody that actually cares and loves the man, right? Because he done traveled all across the world, came back and said, "Hey, brother, I got something you gotta see." So if you know, you know. But I am excited to hear everyone's take on chapters 7 and 8. I know it was a thickie. It was a thick one for sure. A lot of substance. So, one, there's not a lot of people on the call today. There might be a few that trickle through. But I enjoy conversations like this because it allows for some intimate, real life discussion to occur. So, with that being said, does anybody want to kick us off? Let me know. All right, Imani, you got the mic, girl. Let's get it.
hello, hi everyone. Thank you for opening up like that. I feel great. This book is great. It is very thick. Okay. It's very thick and I love it. It's such a good. It's just okay. I'm gonna jump right in.
Hey, did you say thick?
It is. It's a thick.
We've been
She
saying
thinks I love this book.
this on multiple season that thing.
Let's see. So, oh my god. Okay, there we go. So, chapter 7, he was talking about mind management, and he was talking about how Yogi Raman trained himself to slow his heart rate, and it was an ancient technique that he used. I found that very fascinating because of the mental mastery to be able to, and the physical too, because he talks a lot about mind, body, and soul. So the certain techniques that he's using in these chapters are helping to strengthen himself to be able to keep his mind in the right place to bring everything that he wants for himself into existence. He also brings up that as long as this desire is like to better the community and like give, that it will come. And so it's like a cycle. It's a really interesting cycle how he puts things out and the way he receives, but it's like constant give and take. And that's the whole point of the cycle of giving and receiving. So he's talking about this woman who was like an internal optimist. I think she was a teacher. It was like a story about how the school like burnt down. And instead of like having this really negative look on it like, oh no, the sky is falling. This, what is going to happen now? The kids are not going to. No, she decided like it was better. She said, or every setback has an equivalent benefit. And I'm like, look at physics, physics in the making. Every every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. There's actually a like an old saying in the spiritual world: as above, so below; as within, so without; as the universe, so the soul. It's all basically the exact same idea. Like everything that happens doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to last. It will be okay. And I've had to say that a lot to myself in these moments, even before book club. I'm like kind of finishing off the chapter and then I'm just shuffling around and my heart rate is beating super fast. And I'm realizing, like, oh my God, this is what he's talking about. He mentions having like this negative thought and how it becomes it's like an embryo that grows. Like, oh my God, every negative thought is is like a disease. It's a disease. And you have to like train yourself in these different techniques that he uses throughout these chapters for this week. And each of those chapters kind of like build on top of each other where you're just like, these are ancient techniques. This is nothing new. Nothing new. It's been going on. He said that what those yogis had this knowledge for 5,000 years. So it's been around. It's like these primordial principles that show like how powerful these kinds of thinkings are. You want to be happy. I want to be happy. I know y'all want to be happy. Like who the sense of peace to walk through this life and not have to stress and he brings up stress as well. So with the school, it burnt down, but the school was decrepit, and that's what she said. She's like, listen, the floor was given out, everything was all broken down. The community came together, they built a new school, and now it serves more children. God, it's so special. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. It's just it's beautiful. Like, be positive. Um, Throughout my life, I have always been like a very positive person. Now I have more strategies that can bridge the gap, between the smaller picture and the bigger picture. And I definitely appreciate these techniques because it builds. Your mind is a muscle. Your mind is a muscle. Build it, work it out. I'm trying to have a swole mind, y'all. Like, let's
So,
build the community as well. So he talks about like being a prisoner of your past and start becoming the architect of your future. um Bars. Imagination, like living out of your imagination, not your memory. And okay, when I was younger, I would always like have this huge imagination and be in this like world, and I would tell people would be like, "Oh, you're just living in your world," and kind of say it with that negative connotation. And I took that to heart as a kid. So, I would think of myself I would think of myself as this mermaid swimming around and getting to travel everywhere and then go back to my grotto under the moonlight. And it always made me feel so excited. But once people started telling me, like, get out of your head, don't have high expectations, don't, what was another one? Don't get too excited because it might not happen. That dims a light. So, as a child, innocent, what am I supposed to do? I'm hearing these people that I know and trust, they're my caretakers, they're family and friends, didn't know any better. Now, like the more knowledge, the better understanding, the easier it is to catch these things and realize, like, hey, I love my inner world. I love my imagination because from my imagination births beauty. just like the school. But to be honest, like these are real life fallacies people have, and that has nothing to do with me. Like their inner world is on a whole different page. I have my own inner world, and I am the governor of my own inner world, so nobody really has anything to do with it. And yeah, he brings up Winston Churchill. The price of greatness is the responsibility of your thoughts. And just to let y'all know, like some of y'all probably know this, everybody probably knows this. I don't know, but Winston Churchill was a blaring alcoholic. That man won a war drunk. He won a war drunk, and he look. He has so much power over his mind. He's just like, listen, we just won. We just won. We did it. Like that is intense kind of power, and it kind of goes to show like how your thoughts birth everything. Like we have two sides of the brain. I was just watching a documentary about that, and it was talking about how the left brain is the analytical side, but it has a smaller view, where the right brain is not as analytical, but it sees this huge view, the world view, the bird's eye. And by bringing them together, we can have balance. And this book actually is all about balance, balance of the self, the mind, the body, and how having these positive reinforcements really bring your inner world outward so you can live a much happier and fulfilled life. And I could keep going, but I'm just going to leave with these last two things. Yeah, Marcus, I got to flip. Yeah, my flip phone. I love this flip phone. I have so much more time, y'all. It is insane. The time that I've gotten back is kind of sick. Like, I didn't have, it's been such a challenge getting into everything and calling people and texting people in 20 minutes. It's not easy, but it's a conversational starter because anytime I'm whipping it out for directions, they're like, are you serious right now? I'm like, yes, I needed this.
Mhm.
Um, but believe it or not, this thing has games on it and it's also a distraction. So I realized from reading these chapters that a distraction can be anything that helps, like with that, like what did he was saying something like the psychology of it, where like the stress and how he would come home and he would just watch TV because he would just be brain dead. And he's kind of talking about that kid who or the story about the kid who wanted to work more and work more so he can get results faster, but the harder he worked, the more the time it took to complete these things. So it's the technique, y'all. It's the technique behind everything. And that is how you build the muscle to slow down, focus, strengthen your mind, take a look at do the rose exercise, and prosper. So my last thought, because I could just go on. For when he was talking about happiness, feeling the happiness in chapter 9, I literally thought about Peter Pan. Do y'all remember Peter Pan? Where it's like, think of a wonderful thought, every merry little thought, think of Christmas, think of snow. Like, you can fly. You can truly fly if you believe and have the strength to feel the happiness from within and exude it. Very powerful stuff. I love you guys. Happy Saturday. I am going to pass it to I'm gonna pass it to Chi Town.
My headphone, Amani, you did your thing. You did your thing because like you hit the key points for real. Mastering your not only your heart rate but your mind in general is something serious, and it's not something everyone realizes that they have to do. It's not something you should do. It's something you have to do, especially if you're goal oriented and you got things to get done. Um, Chapter 7 was a mini book by itself. That thing was 30. Did you see this? Like it was like 30 pages straight, but it gave what it needed to give. I think one of my key highlights in chapter 7 was the seven virtues of life. And I feel like I love that part because he reminded me of like us as children when we're hearing fables and stories, and it's just like, all right, I don't get it. All right, I don't like. What's the point? All right, why are you telling me this? Like a sumo wrestler in a garden, like you're not making sense. Diamonds, I'm like, I don't see it. But as I'm reading it, it gave me every insight as to where I get over. I start to not only overthink, but I try to overanalyze without understanding the full concept of a story or of a purpose or of a moment. And as he got through it and didn't get the exact definitive answer that he wanted, it kind of took me back to the Bible, where it's just like the Bible has so many parables and analogies where it's just like it's not going to tell you straightforward because it's about what you interpret and what you need to analyze within yourself. So I truly love that part because it was not only creative because it seems normal, like, oh, you're in the garden, and then a sumo wrestler is just like that one thing, that distraction, that thing that takes your mind off what you're supposed to be doing, or that light or that darkness in a light moment, in a moment where you think you know what to do or what you got going on. Here comes something else, you know. So yeah, I really found fond of that. But like the deeper meanings and each purpose, like each item or thing in that story is a virtue of life. Like the garden represents one thing. I don't remember exactly what it is, but the garden represents something. The rose represent something. The okay, thank you. The garden is your mindset. Yes, yes, Sam. Yeah, garden is mindset. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Well, I think I'm gonna have to whip out the notes for this one because, like, okay, the garden, the lighthouse, the sumo wrestler, the pink cable wire. That part threw me off. I'm not even gonna hold you. I'm like, why is him in a thong like important? But but like I got it. I got it once it kept going. The stopwatch, and I feel like the stopwatch for me was the most obvious yet important part because we're all we all have some type of mental constraint when it comes to time. And I think that was the part that made me like relax. Like the anxiety was running because I'm just like, all right, the point of the story, the point of the story. But then when we got to the stopwatch part, it was just like, okay, more this is the moral of the story. Like time is only important based on what you're doing or how you're utilizing your own time. Not watching a clock, not comparing your clock to somebody else's, but what are you doing in your 24 hours because we all get 24 hours. And then the rose and the winding path of diamonds, that one I just felt it was obvious. And I was just like, see, this is where I get in trouble because I'm immediately going down that winding path of diamonds. And this could be the trap, but like obviously more there's a deeper meaning to that as well. So that on that for the seven virtues, but I could really, really relate. I believe his name is John. I could really relate to John because it's just like, all right, what can I do today? What can I do today? Like you're telling me all this, but what can I do today? Like how do I, how do I? And he's like, take it day by day. We're gonna take it item by item, conversation by conversation, day by day. And he's basically losing his mind, but at the same time, he's so invested in the results because he sees the results that he wants to, take this journey however long it's going to take for him. Plus, he gets his friend back, but as well, he gets to learn something that he doesn't even realize he's been fighting with, which is, how to get his life back. So that was extremely powerful. Um, the part where he was pouring the tea reminded me of Kung Fu Panda. Y'all remember Kung Fu Panda? And the part he basically obviously is ancient rules
Hey, little side
sources.
note, we keep bringing up Kung Fu Panda in this book club for this book. I'm not gonna lie to
I
you. Let's all
mean,
have a watch party.
I think we should. I think we should
Not gonna lie
really
to
do
you.
that.
Okay, my bad, sis, but I'm just
No, but
shout out
no,
that
you're
movie
you're
though.
right on point. No, you're absolutely on point because although it's a cartoon, they tap into a lot of the ancient, not only rules but like the mindsets and techniques. And I mean, if you know anything about martial arts and that lifestyle, it doesn't come with, hey, you stand in front of this person and fight them. No, you go through physical life. lifelike task to actually learn martial arts. Like even when I was learning martial arts, it was things that I felt like had nothing to do with martial arts. But then when you apply it, it just makes so much sense. So shout out to the ancient uh I don't know the exact code, but shout out to ancient culture overall overall. But it's just learning through, I mean, the general story of the book, learning through fables, learning through analogies, because and going back to the Bible, it's easier applied and understood when you're being told a story about it where you get to break it down mentally versus being told what to do, because human nature, once you're told what to do, you're either gonna be submissive or you're gonna absolutely fight against what that is. So that's my take on that. And I'm going to pass it to Sam Trades by day.
Let's go. Fire takes, y'all. And yeah, like you, I was intimidated by chapter seven too. I was like, we're reading eight and nine after seven? Like, because it was just so much. Like, I really wanted to read it twice because, I mean, what it was saying, like y'all have been pointing out, the mind is a garden, and we really, it is our thoughts are what we are. We think as we are, and so what we pour into our mind, it really it really feeds into our subconscious. And like it said, I mean, our subconscious has, over 60,000 thoughts that we aren't in control of. And I don't think we can ever control our subconscious, but we can definitely influence it. And it's influenced by the stuff that we constantly feed our mind, like our music or our television or our entertainment, our distractions, if you will. So it really emphasizes, just to weed out the negative thoughts and to, really not just empower positive thinking. I mean, because we could think about sunshine and rainbows all day. I could go dance in the rain any day, but it's to intentionally cultivate that improvement, to really consciously cultivate life in your mind. Like Amani was saying, with Winston Churchill. I mean, plastered out of his mind, but still had the willpower, the mind power, and the conviction to really, think about, we're going to win, and not let any negative thought come to his mind, regardless of his mental state. So it really is powerful. And I mean, I want to go through the chapters and then I'll come back to chapter seven. But um, I mean, really with chapter eight, it really was talking about, just that inner fire, that burning desire. And the last week we had that exercise that Patrick ran us through the like uh Chaitan, you said the mind, the lighthouse, the sumo wrestler, and the thong, the time, and we ran through it. And I was, as Patrick was reading it, I was in the moment, and then I saw this lighthouse, and I thought, like, in this beautiful garden, why is there this lighthouse? What is the reason? And it just clicked, like, what is the reason? What is the purpose? What is our purpose? And that's how I interpreted it as. And as the sumo wrestler stepped out, I believe he was in a thong just for a thought interruption. We have our goal, we have our purpose, and then something comes out in front of us, and we just completely get distracted, and it's enough sometimes to just deter us off of this path. And so that's how I interpret it as, because, if you haven't heard me talk about it before, there's an ancient teaching called the Ikigai. And what the Ikigai is, let's see if I can throw it in the chat. Let's see if I can throw
Like your
this.
purpose, what you're good at.
So yeah, it's so
Yeah.
imagine a Venn diagram, y'all. So it's what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs. And right in the middle is your ikigai. So when you find what you love, what you're passionate about, what you're good at, what you can be professional at, what you can be paid for, compensation, and what the world needs, that's the mission. So when you find what your center is, that's your ikigai, that's your purpose, that's what you can contribute, and that's um, really what I reminded me of when it said, kindling your inner fire, your dharma, your purpose. It's what lights your soul on fire, what gets you out of a bed, with no alarm. If what gets you excited, it's your purpose. So, I've come to just this past week understand that you don't find that while just going through life. You don't find that just by drifting. You don't find that by being in the cycle of your negative subconscious thoughts. You really have to get intentional, and you have to just, I found it helpful when I started writing it down. And you just start writing and writing and writing. You really are able to shake off the webs of your mind and really get into what it is that you really want and what it is matters to you. So that's really what I got out of those two books. But the chapter seven, I mean, it really is. It really is powerful, and I don't want to just gloss over it as big as the chapter was. I mean, you know, you really emphasize that the garden is a mind, and yeah, I remember the 10. It was 10. Man, I forgot what it was, but I remember the rose. I remember reading that in the practice to just grab a rose and just focus on it and just focus on it. And when you see your mind drifting, as all of our minds would, I mean, undisciplined mind, I haven't intentionally trained my mind to keep that focus. And so that's why in my day to day, I can sit down with a book and a notebook, but then my mind just wanders because I haven't intentionally put in that work to then focus on my mind. And I want to give flowers to my roommate here because I can tell, through those moments when we are just high focus, we're head down, and then I like look up, I get distracted, and I'm like, "Yo, Marcus, look at this!" And my man is unfazed because he's trained his mind to stay focused on the task at hand, and it really is evident of the work that one can put in. And it was very eye-opening because it'd be like, oh man, my mind's everywhere, and it sometimes controls where I want to go and the thoughts I want to think, even when I'm telling it like to just focus. And so it really is a is a eye-opening really to know that, like, okay, so this isn't just like ADD or something. You can really work on it. You can really focus and dive in. And like the book is just saying, it's saying to increase or improve ever so slightly day by day. I mean, that's what the Dharma is speaking towards, to just reach that enlightenment, or just day by day, that Kaizen that it was talking about. Um, so that was really what I grabbed out of it. Um, and then yeah, like Imani was saying, the opposition thinking. We have all these negative thoughts just coming into our mind, and we really just have to catch ourselves because it is a cycle. And sometimes we don't always have that thought interruption. We might be just driving down the road, thinking, oh, I hate traffic, oh, I don't want to go do this, I don't want to do that. The same thoughts that we've continuously thought the same day before, the same week, same months for years now, because we haven't had a thought interruption. And that's why we have book clubs like this, and we have groups and systems in place to be that constant wake up call that sometimes we all need just every day, because it's so easy to get into the habit that we've established through our whole life. So it's really important to have that thought interruption, and to check yourself and to say, is this negative? Did I think about this before? How do I switch it? How do I replace this with a more optimistic thought? So that's really what I got out of this. I mean this chapter just emphasizes, how precious your mind is and the garden that you plant. And, it isn't, like I said, it isn't just positivity. It isn't just positive thinking, it's intention, it's conscious cultivation to really blossom the flowers that you want to blossom in your life. So I think we really just can't overstate and overlook, the seeds that get planted in our head, because every time we plant a seed, it's going to blossom. And when we want the fruit of our if we want the right fruit to blossom, then we starts with the right seeds. So I think that's really mostly all I had. So I'll keep it moving. I appreciate Marcus, you mind taking it away? Thank you.
My guy, I appreciate it. I'm gonna throw my glasses on for this one. Cause yo, I I am grateful, man, for the space. I'm grateful for y'all as well. I appreciate the love, bro. And I think you're absolutely right when you say like I don't even notice that sometimes I'm just like so in tune at the task at hand that I don't even be peeping the small little things because it's been habitually built over the course of now 10 years. It's kind of surreal when you think about it. First and foremost, kudos to you guys. I spent well over six figures in a span of 5, 6 years going to an event every 3 months where I was listening to people who had a lifestyle that I wanted and had experiences and skill sets that I was seeking to obtain myself. And they were saying basically all of chapter seven throughout majority of my time over the last 5 years. Like it's actually crazy. All I could think about was my rich dad and my wealth journey, which is my guy Marcusetta, as well as every mentor that's came before me, telling me the importance of my mindset, and how for the longest time, the world felt, I believe now threatened or um, offended by my delusional, optimistic, positive mindset. It's actually wow, like almost to the point where I've genuinely been called like toxic positive. It's kind of crazy. It's okay if that's what people want to describe me as. I do believe there's like a you're not being rational and you've got to identify with the negative parts of the experience in order to fully be within the positive parts of what life has to offer. But what I've learned, especially like in this reading, but throughout my scripture studying of the Bible and just the application of what I believe God has asked me to do, is that at the end of the day, he says it best in here, right? No matter what happens to you in your life, you alone have the capacity to choose your response to it. You alone, meaning no one else, has the capacity, means you're capable to choose. But whether or not you choose is up to you. And for the longest time, I didn't recognize how important this was. I think one of the biggest things that stood out to me from reading chapter seven is right before he started talking about the school. Shout out money. I wanted to touch on that. He brought up her motto, which is your I can is more important than your IQ. I was like, yo, I'm still in that. Quit playing with me. That's a bar. I was like, dude, I literally like it was complete thought disruptor because it's real life. He said previous in the he ended the last paragraph prior. He said that what really separates people who are habitually upbeat and optimistic from those who are consistently miserable is how the circumstances of life are interpreted and processed, right? And he was saying that. And it was cool because he didn't like outward just start with that. He wanted you to have an idea in your brain of what he was saying prior to teaching the lesson. And he said that the face of your greatest enemy might be the face of my finest friend, right? And then he said an event that appears to be a tragedy to one might reveal the seeds of unlimited opportunity to another, right? Like for example, 9/11, something that's very traumatic for a lot of people, even myself, like we were young at the time, but like when we look back at it, it was a very horrible thing that happened. Yet across the sea, people who ain't never been a part of it or never inflicted by it were shorting the stock market at the same time. And they were capitalizing on an opportunity that they witnessed, right? When majority of the world's like, oh my God, this is the most terrible thing that has happened. And I'm not saying people should profit off of people's pain and suffering. That is not at all what I'm saying. Please hear me what I'm saying. What I'm actively bringing up and as an example is we have no control over anything else. And I say this all the time, right? He says we most certainly can control our attitude towards these events, right? I every time I get an individual started on their entrepreneurial journey, I usually go through a 24 to 48 hour time frame of a goal setting. And we talk about big picture, and then we create some smaller targets throughout the year to go after so that there's some intention behind what we're doing. We're not just doing stuff. And I always remind people at the end of the day, there's going to be so much stuff that is out of your control. But the only things that we can control is our attitudes of mind and the thoughts that we choose to focus on, right? Like all the facts we're being brought up that we say over and over and over again is because it's been regurgitated to me from people that I've learned from. But your thoughts think you have 60,000 thoughts every single day. 95% of them are repeated. What are your thoughts? Like is actually going through your brain from the first jump? And I think the biggest part of creating a shift, right? He talks about like you've got to be willing to put in the shift so that your mindset goes from thinking negative to thinking positively. There's got to be a paradigm switch, and all success in life starts with a 12-pound mass sitting between your shoulders. Mikhail and I like saying all the time, it's using the thing between your ears that's going to get you from where you're at to where you truly want to be. And most people don't fully recognize the mindset. It's like Chi-Town talked about, like, okay, well, what do I need to do like right now? Like, what's the practical steps? And the practical step, first and foremost, is to unlearn what you've learned so that you can learn. That takes process. Um, just because my guy Sam has been listening to this guy almost every morning, but I actually learned this visual from Neno when I first started listening to the man. But right, like our minds is like this yarn ball, and for years and decades, it's been built and programmed, trained. And now you have this big yarn ball of a whole bunch of the world and what you've raised in, or the systems, the schools, and the work environments that you've been a part of, your relationships. And before you can get to where you truly want to go, you've got to unravel the yarn ball that has been built. So you've got to take it apart. And that takes some time. You're like, wow, I didn't know that I learned that and I need to unlearn it. Right. And then eventually you get to a point where you can start building up the yarn ball again. And this process can take as long or as fast as you want it to. Right. For me, it took about maybe like 5 years for me to start really walking in it and embodying it. And over the last 5 years, the first 5 years was preparation for the last 5 years, and it's positioned me for the next 5 years. And because of that, I've been able to progress. There are some people, like my guy Sam, that has learned lessons that took me 3, 4 years to learn in his first 4 months. And he's been able to go and compress his time frames. But at the end of the day, what matters most is the not just the implementation of it, but the solidification of it, right? It's not just a one-time thing, right? Personal development and practices in your mindset is like a shower. You don't have to take one every day, but I recommend it so you can smell good and be smooth. And I really do. I love the how imperative he made the mindset in talking about chapter 7. Um, the other thing I wanted to touch on, right, is boom. And we y'all kind of touched on it last week too, because I think some people had read ahead. But to live life to the fullest, you must stand guard at the gate of your garden and let only the best information enter. You truly cannot afford the luxury of a negative thought. Like you cannot afford it, especially like where we're all at. Like you have to tell yourself that I cannot pay that price, right? Think energy is the currency of the universe. What you pay attention to will pay you tenfold. So if you're constantly entertaining negative thoughts, you're going to receive more of that, right? What you focus on expands. So in that process, my guy, it just reminded me like biblically, there's truth behind it, right? Romans chapter 12, verse 2, allow for the transformation of your life to occur through the renewal of your mind. Proverbs 4:23 talks about, boom, it's right here. Boom. More than anything, guard your heart and protect your mind. 2 Corinthians, where's that? Boom. 2 Corinthians 10:5. Take every thought captive to obey Christ. Right? You're like, well, damn, there's 60,000 thoughts. Exactly. You've got to recognize which ones are you repeating that come from you, which ones are you repeating that comes from the earth and the world, which ones are you repeating that comes from Christ and God Himself. And I recommend taking every thought and literally in your mind's eye, envision yourself grabbing it or holding it captive and doing what the word exactly says and make it obey what you know to be truth. I think for the longest time, I always got extremely overwhelmed. I was kind of like the guy that he talked about, right? Worry, overcoming people with anxieties, fretting about the past, brooding over the future, self-created fears. Self-created fears, y'all. The shout out God, you know what I'm saying? Because yo, I promise you, I was not even a fraction of the man of peace that I am today. And it's really because I was attempting to do so much that was outside of my control. And it made me completely unhealthy, mentally, physically. I also love how they speak on the mind, body, and soul. It's metaphysics, it's your understanding of the physical that you can't tangibly touch or see, but that automatically works. Y'all, I studied science. So, like, scientifically, everything that they're teaching is proven physiologically. Your body responds to specific thoughts, your emotions are triggered by specific stimuli. And if you understand yourself more, you can move your environments, you can change your focus, and then you can actively do something about it. And for the longest time, I didn't understand what that meant. I'm like, how? Like, how do I not worry about the future? I got to care about the future in order to do something better. But at the end of the day, you just got to be right here, right now, right? And he says the essence of life management is mind management. And I always think about Jim Rohn, right? Most people work harder at their jobs than they work on themselves. And it's a slippery slope because I think like they express it, and this goes into chapter 8. Like it's not just the understanding and the learning, right? Especially I meet a lot of self-help gurus in this space of entrepreneurship, and they love it. They're listening to all the audios, they're reading all the books, they're watching all the seminars, they're attending every meeting, but they're not doing anything with it. And it's because in chapter 8, he talks about like the purpose of life is a life of purpose, right? And if you have your ikigai, there's a dope song too by Futuristic. I don't know if y'all have listened to it before, but y'all should. We might play it out as we get out of here. But if you understand with clarity, then you can operate more presently. Oh, that's a bar. I'm gonna keep that. But no, but genuinely, and it really is like present, right? And I think that's where the sages were able to just like demonstrate control of their mind and of their metaphysical responses because they were right here, right now. Right. And I really think that's the most powerful thing that we are given with the gift that we have, which is our mind. It's like you can be right here, right now, and you can decide what you're gonna do today that your future self can thank you for. You can do something today that actually matters. And people don't understand, even if you choose not to do nothing, you're still choosing. Like there's a choice being made, and you got to decide, am I settling for a choice? Am I as Sam just talked about, am I nonchalantly just going with the flow? Only dead fish do that, right? You've got to be willing to swim. You got to be willing to figure it out, and you've got to be willing to put yourself through the situations and circumstances that to most people might look like extremely tragic, but to you it looks like an opportunity to grow, right? It's kind of wild. I was having a conversation with my pops, and y'all keep him in y'all's prayers because he is riddled with worry and anxiety. I think that's where I get it from. And we were having a conversation, right? And he was talking to me about how he's been learning some things and applying some things. I'm like, Pop, you know what, dude? I know something that will absolutely get rid of that completely. I drew his attention in. He was right here with me. He's like, okay, what's up? What is it? I was like, his name is Jesus Christ. And like we chuckled and we smiled, but I was being dead serious. And I'm like, Pop, I understand the practices that you're doing. I do them as well. But you should open up that thing that's collecting some dust on the side of your bed and really learn and apply the lessons that you say you believe in. He gave me some love, but it was funny because my brother heard me in the back, like he knew where I was going with it. He was like, "Pop." I was like, "Pop, I know something exactly what you need. It's gonna be gone, I promise you." Right? And he was expressing to me how in that period of my life where Amani, like you know what I'm saying, like I listened to your testimony while I was recapping over last week's recording. And girl, I'm gonna give you some flowers because at the end of the day, it really is your paradigm while you're in the midst of it that matters most, and you're in it, right? And when I was in it, like I said, I didn't, and on the first week, I didn't sell all my stuff. The Lord took all my stuff. And I was in a situation where like, yo, I lost my wallet, I lost my whip, I lost my house, I lost everything. And I was sitting month 6, sleeping and waking up on my mom's couch, still focused on the mission at hand and still having to believe whether or not I'm capable or I'm deserving of the life that I believe God has asked me to go and take steps towards. And my pops was telling me that in that time he was riddled with worry and fear and stress for me. He was like you know, as a parent, you don't ever want to see that. I'm like, yeah, I know, Pop, but you got to recognize like I'm a grown man and like I know what you mean. Like I was going through like it was my situation. You know what I'm saying? Like I know I was there and I was in the midst of it. But I need you to understand, even when you were worried, I wasn't. Even though you had a lot of anxiety, I was focused on gratitude, my attitude of mind. I was focused on, all right, God, what do you need me to do today, right here, right now? How are you shaping my testimony to show someone else that it's possible? Let me come with the right heart posture and frame of mind so that I can use whatever you've given me and take the next best step forward. And most people in that situation, like I'm grateful, y'all, because I understand most people, when I tell them about what had happened or they knew about what happened, they were like, I have no idea how you show up and do the things you do. I was like, bro, it ain't me. And I'm clear that as the lighthouse, right, in the end of chapter 8, as the lighthouse, hold on, let me have it highlighted one sec. Um, it paves way and it gives you purpose. And I really do believe that's why, like Jesus himself says, I'm a light, or in the book of Psalms, like you are a light to my path, a lamp for my footsteps, right? If you think about that, a lighthouse will show you the road ahead, and sometimes you might only see 1, 2, or 3 steps. It's still dark. So you've got to trust in the next step that you can take right now. And that purpose gives you that ability to self-examine, gives you that ability to create game plans to attain goals and to progress, right? And then you can receive everything as feedback and not failure. I had my shout out my guy Andy. I wish he was on this call. I'm gonna have a conversation with him tomorrow. We're doing a 90-day run together. And he was like, bro, do you ever like, as you're going and you're aiming to implement these changes in your life, like, does it become more louder in your brain about the people you used to be with and the things that you used to do? Like, I'm having a hard time. And I'm like, yeah, bro, that's part of it because you're more aware. You're more aware. But you've got to decide and understand, like, yo, at the end of the day, I'm either gonna choose the life that I want or I'm gonna choose the life that I already have. And it's literally up to you. You have, and it's all based on your thoughts, you know? So before I continue on a tangent, I really do believe that like if you can cultivate your mind and you provide a higher quality of life being determined by a higher quality of your thoughts, that doesn't mean you're exempt from the negative thoughts or the thoughts that you're used to. It just means you're changing your focus. You're changing your intention, and then you're moving with more clarity, right? You don't need to know, as Chi-Town said, right? Because John was like, bro, what do I need to do? And oh boy, like, it's more important that you understand what I'm telling you right now, because if you understand these concepts, what you need to do will make itself known to you. right? This is why, like in the book of the seven spiritual laws, he talks about in the law of detachment. Detach yourself from the results and allow yourself to be open to the field of endless possibilities, and the solution will make itself appear. It's not because you're focused on, hey, what's going to happen 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. You're focused right here, right now. And you know that the work works more on you than the work itself, and it will yield the results because you're doing the work, period, point blank. And the only way that you move with that clarity is if you're in tune with your mind and you continuously grow. Why do y'all think that like I'm always working on myself? And I don't care what anybody says. I I don't need nothing else other than my God and my mindset, and I'll figure it out. That's it. If we can have that level of clarity, he'll put me around the right people. He'll give me the right situations and circumstances. He'll allow me to open up doors that I didn't even know were available and open with the keys that he's given me. Like, oh, dang, that one goes in that lock. Quit playing. Let's go. I'm gonna open up this door and I'm gonna continue taking steps. How am I certain that I'm doing the right thing? I'm not. It's called faith. Like I have faith in what it is I'm learning, right? And if you have small goals where you know what is to occur, faith is not needed. And therefore you're attempting to be the God of your own life, and he just told you the only thing that you can control is your attitude of mind and the thoughts of which you focus on. So keep focusing, keep going forward, y'all. I love you guys, and I appreciate y'all allowing me to share some things that stood out to me. And I'll pass this thing over to either Mateo or Pat, whoever wants to take the mic. Go on hit. Oh, Pat, you missed it, bro. I caught the recording. You snapped, big dog. I appreciated everybody's take last week. But Pat, if you want to go, then
Yeah, sure, I guess. I guess if Mateo's not here, I'm not gonna be too long. Honestly, yeah, I mean, there's a lot in these chapters. I'll just go over the two key things that I picked up off of these today. I don't know. I kind of want to be a little bit shorter this go around, but let me see, 7 and 8. So seven. I loved all the techniques. A lot of times I think people can get really focused on the techniques, right? Like he was salivating in his mouth, it's just like, hey, just what are the ways that we can get this, It's like shortcuts. I think he mentions that as well, but it's like we tend to focus on those things. We really want to let's get to the meat of it, right? Let's get to the how to. And he was just so focused on that instead of the rest of the things that he was telling him. But the heart of the rose, I came in on Sam and talking about that one. I really love that one because I'm a very, I feel like a lot of us, we tend to talk about we have ADHD or we've got ADD. It's like everybody's got it apparently, it's like this epidemic of it. And I'm like, no, it's just we just struggle. And I liked when he was talking about that exercise, the heart of the rose, just being able to look at something and just focus on that. And I felt that one. That hits me a lot because I have a real struggle with that. I do have squirrel brain, right? Ooh, piece of candy, right? And that is something that I just forever so hard. Like so months ago, I think I put it in the chat or whatever. I use this app, right? And I wanted to incorporate um uh, better practices or whatever in my life, right? Routine. I wanted a better one. And so I incorporated reading. I hadn't read, I hated it, right? I really hated reading this and that, even though for years I have, heard from mentors and different people like reading is so key in people's lives, right? In personal development. And I would always get audiobooks and I would always get this and that, blah, blah, blah. But I wouldn't read. And so I started on this app and literally it's crazy, you guys. Like I just dropped it in our channel, but like from what I went to, and I did, it's called a 66-day reset, right? And I use this app, uh, and within the app, you list everything's like things that you're doing, and then things that you want to incorporate right back into your life. So one of the hardest ones that I did was meditation, right? And not because like, well, yes, because it's just focusing, right? Trying to hear your inner thoughts and focusing on that and trying to calm your mind. And some people talk about, yeah, I can not have the inner voice. And I think that's BS, I think my inner voice, is constant no matter what, right? And so I think a lot of people are very delusional, but anyways, one of the hardest ones was meditation, and I successfully, did every single meditation that was on this chart, right? And what the app does is it gives you a list of everything that you want to incorporate in, right, into your routine, and it starts you off slow, right? And then slowly, day by day, week by week, it incorporates more things and more of these things. So I think I started off at like, 10 pages of reading, 10 minutes or 15 minutes of meditation, going to the gym, running, drinking water. Even those things are like important. And I always thought, I'm not dehydrated. I'm good, like I drink water, this and that. Well, I'll tell you, uh, nothing can make you a believer more than actually doing things, right? And I used to get a lot of headaches. I've just like headaches stopped coming. The more water I started drinking on a daily basis. Like I always carried my hydro flask around with me, right? And I would drink maybe one of them a day, but it got me up to about three and a half per day. And ever since, like honestly, like it was mind blowing to me because I always thought, hey, I'm drinking like one of these a day. We're cool, right? And but headaches have stopped. I just feel better all around. Who would have thought, right? But anyways, back to on topic, the Heart of the Rose. That one I thought was very, very. That was one of the best ones that stood out to me, as well as because the opposition of thinking. I feel like I've always been pretty good at that, right? When I heard John C. Maxwell, um, and he was talking about he said something when I saw him speak a long time ago, years and years ago. He said happiness is a choice, right? And most people don't think that, or they might disagree with it, because of what's happening to them. But ultimately, ever since that, I really opposition of thinking. I thought that one was great, and but I've been practicing that for a long time, and I have really easy ways or it's become easy, right, over time for me to just change my mindset. You change your mood, change your mindset, and just like don't let instances ruin your entire day. A lot of people talk about that, where you wake up and something little bad happens, right? You get a bad phone call, and a lot of people let that ruin the rest of their entire day. And we live moments to moments, so just don't let one little moment ruin your entire day. So that one, and the secret of the lake, looking in the reflection, that one, whoo, boy, because these chapters, and when they talk about in the next chapter, they talk about goals, but the secret of the lake, looking at who you think you are, right, or who you want to be, seeing yourself, that is something also I think I've struggled with a lot, because goal setting, I think that's hand in hand with goal setting, right? And in the next chapter, when he says, take that time out, right? I've heard people say this so many times, and why I just struggle with it, I don't know, but I really want to do that. Um, really want to take time out of my day, just even 10 minutes, right? To just really think about stuff, right? We've all heard the example, or most of us have heard, is it's hard to hit a target that you can't see, right? You cover your head. I think he used that example. Covers the head of his his the master that he was learning from or whatever, and he's like, hey, how do you think I can hit this target? How close can I get to this target, right? And he shoots it and it goes way away from the target. And he's like, yeah, you can't, if you can't see the target, how do you expect to hit it? And I think that's something that I'm truly going to commit to and really try and, shout out Coach CJ for doing that session when he was talking about, I don't know if any of y'all were in on it or missed it or whatever, but he was like, what's one thing that you can commit to? And had no clue because I committed to so many things that I improved in my life using an app in the past couple months. Like I went from now I run close to 12 miles a week, right? And I went from doing nothing, right? Not running anything, not running jack shit, not going to the gym at all, not reading, and in the past 2 months that I was doing that, I've already read over 5 books. I've already run, now I'm up to 12 miles a week. I'm up to 4 liters of water a day. I'm up to going to the gym, for over 6 to 9 hours a week, right? So so I had committed to so many things and I've changed my life so much that I was like, when Coach CJ said that, I was like, man, what am I gonna pick? But then reading these chapters, all of a sudden it showed up in my life, right? It showed up in my life. I was like, that's what I need to commit to. I need to commit to the secret of the lake. I need to commit to finding my targets, really focusing in and making it an objective of what I want to do. The one quote I did want to put that I marked in here was he says, "Oh, the story." He's talking to the story. I did this one. He's talking to the story, and he's like, "Hey, how long do you think it'll take, right, for me to master this, right?" And he kept associating with how much time per day that he puts into it, and then this reminded me. But this quote, he says. With one eye fixed on the destination, there's only one left to guide you along your journey, right? And to me, that's always like something my father always said was like he would get frustrated or angry at me as my coach. He was my coach when I used to do wrestling, right? And he would always say, "Why are you looking at the clock?" Why are you looking at the clock, right? And you see a lot of people do this and they tend to lose, right? They tend to lose when they're looking at the clock, right? Why are you worried about the clock, what it's doing? You should be focused on doing this, what you're doing, right? Any sport that you do or anything that you do in your life, stop looking at the clock and focus on what you are doing now, right? So that really that when I read that, I was like, oh man, that brings me back, right? To when he's like, hey, why are you looking up at the clock? No, you should be, you got someone inside in front of you who's trying to take you down, like why are you looking at the clock? Or runners, track people. Oh my goodness, it's like they'll be looking instead of looking forwards, it's like, oh, looking where the person is behind you, right? Oh, or they're looking sideways, they're trying to look back. What are you doing? You should be focused, dead set on going forward and crossing the finish line, not where everybody else is, you know? So that was crazy. And then in this one, follow your purpose. Again, it's funny how in chapter 8 that really lined up. So one of my mentors, another guy that I follow in forex and trading, he had a session this week. What are your distractions? Why are you distracted, right? And something that he teaches though is in this is funny in trading, right? Especially because I'm really trying to focus and get better on trading. But something that he teaches that nobody else I've never heard, right? Is he says take your trading account, right? And give it a purpose. Give your trading account a purpose. We're allowed to have however many trading accounts. You can break it down and have 10, $20 accounts, $15 accounts, $30 accounts, $50 accounts. So what he says is he tries to teach and tell people make your trading account have a purpose, right? You can't just trade for the sake of making money. We all make money, right? I know how to make money. Everybody knows how to make money. So he says associate your trading account with a purpose. You can associate it with a bill, right? So you have an account, your energy bill is $20, $30, whatever, right? I know in Texas, no, it ain't no $30, right? Yeah. Marcus is like, hey, how the heck? What do you mean 30? No, man, it's crazy because up here in Denver, man, our utility bill is like it ain't jack shit, right? I'm like, dude, this is crazy, right? You guys don't have it. You're like, y'all utility, my utility bill was like 1 month was like $30. I was like, what is this crap, right? Up down in Texas, my utility bill used to average like 250 to 300 in the summer. Crazy. Anyways, so he says take your bill, whether it's car payment, whatever it is, and associate that account, right? Because now this account has a purpose. I need to pay this bill, right? This is $300. And so if you associate a trading account with each of your bills, it'll push you forward, right? That's puts you under pressure to, hey, once it matches that bill, withdraw, pay the bill, reset that account, right? And that's it. So he really tries to preach that associating your trading account, not just like, oh, I want to make some money, right? I'm just going to come in here and make some extra money. My job pays the bills, so you shouldn't be stressed about that. But you should associate it with something like that. So, anyways, going back to in the book, that came up in my mind. I'm like, okay, I need to, and that was this week. Everything just like aligned, and I'm like, okay, I need to focus on my targets, right? What actually do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? My goals, all of that stuff, and then really just taking the time out on a daily basis to write those things down, not just put it on my mind. What was it? What was he said? His quote, man, I think I wrote it down. Yeah, you're something that my mentor said this week. He said two good quotes, right? He says, your memory is a liar under pressure. Okay. And so that that stuck out to me, right? Because it's like you a lot of the times we try and rely on our memory, but once you get under pressure, oh man, your memory will tell you whatever you want to hear, Your memory is a liar under pressure. That really stuck to me. And then the other thing that he said, not really associated with any of this, but excuses sound best to the person who makes them, right? So um, it's so that to me was uh, hilarious and great. Excuses sound best to the person that made them. So whatever we tell ourselves to not do these things that we know we need to do, yeah, it's just hurting yourself most. Anyways, yeah, so that's what I'm gonna commit to. over the next I think uh Coach CJ said like 60 days or whatever, right? Yeah, the next 60 days I'm really gonna focus in, and I need to start doing that, the lake, right? What was it? Something in the lake. Um, yeah, the secret of the lake, right? Just this non-existent magical lake, but they're just looking at themselves in it and trying to see themselves of their future self, focusing on that. And so those things, that's really what I'm going to commit to and who I want to grow. My next level of growth, all those things were great and those were then. Now I'm going to focus on setting goals on a daily basis. And yeah, that's something I've struggled with for years, and I really am gonna focus on that. Anyways, that's it for me. Those chapters were great. I'm excited. This book, you know, I like this book. I'm not gonna say more than I thought I would, but I'm enjoying it so far, and I look forward to the rest of it. So I guess, yeah, whoever's left. Sorry, I was like 10:30, right? I was like, oh, 10:30, it starts. Oh yeah, 10:30 Central. I just like jumped out of my bed and I was like, oh no, I missed already the first hour of it. I'm so stupid. But yeah, so
Hey,
I
no
guess,
worries, bro. I just never need you to say the word stupid after the words I am ever again.
yeah, yeah, you're
You're
right.
very
I
intelligent.
and it's funny that hit me right after I said it. I was like, oh, well, oops. Well.
No, you're good, bro. I appreciate the value and the insight, my brother. Mateo, can you hear us, brother? You might be in the middle of an interview, if that's okay. If that's the case, Mr. Steele, you got the floor, brother. No, 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 there's no waiting, bro. Don't can't put your finger out at me. It's crazy.
Can I say something
Absolutely,
else?
absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so with everybody just really sharing their different experiences with this book and how it relates to their life, I really appreciate y'all vulnerability because in every day you really can apply these principles. Um, I was just thinking about like when I before the firing situation, I kept telling myself how much I hated work, and I started to counter that with no, I'm grateful for everything it's given me, the friends, the connections, the network, the inspiration, and the strategies. And so now hearing these principles is like, okay, great, another thing that I can rope intention into. And these moments sometimes when, like, now that I don't have as many distractions and I'm focusing my strength, then I also forget to focus the my mind in stillness and meditation. Sometimes I'll just like work on my computer until my eyes burn before I take a walk outside and pay attention to everything that's going around and mentally giving myself a break from the screen and more connecting to real life. So this book is just so powerful, and I love how everybody is receiving these fables in different ways. Like Sam, you were saying about the lighthouse and how it was just there. And you're like, that's a distraction. And that's so interesting to me because in my mind's eye, when I saw the lighthouse, I was like, we have a lovely lighthouse guarding the sea, making sure ships come in, and whoever is there is just living their happy life with their garden in front of them, and they're sowing the sows. Yeah, sowing the sows of their of their mind and their inner world, and also feeding themselves is like the mind, body, soul all over again. But you saw it in a completely different way, and I actually appreciated that because it's like at the end of the day, like as you're going by, is that necessary for a person? And for some it is, and for some it's not. So like y'all been saying, it's supposed to be interpreted for each person, which is why the answers are not given to you. So just wanted to see that last little tidbit.
Bars. Theo, since you're back, if you want to take it, bro, you can take it. Unless I missed something after
Yeah.
I caught a phone call.
No, you're good. I appreciate you, brother. I wasn't a phone call for the past like um better part of an hour. I had an interview. A good friend of mine, his name's Jay Monopoly. He is building a life insurance agency. And he needs some people to come in like as he's starting out as like the starting five to go ahead and start selling. And then when we obviously show our work, then he'll be able to like code people to us and kind of start building out the team that way. So I was just on a deep dive with him on that, and I kind of had to take it for this because like he wasn't really able to reschedule today. But with that being said, I'll dive into the chapters. I know you guys have been going off on this session. I had the volume down low just so I could kind of like listen on the call, but not too loud to where it was like going on in the background type shit. But I really appreciate you guys for still having me do this, even though I'm probably last. Have all of you guys gone? I want to say I'm pretty much like last. No? Who didn't go yet?
Mikkel.
Mikkel. Oh, word. Okay, okay, yeah. But except for me, word. Yeah, if that's the case, let me go through my notes real quick for y'all. Um, yeah, so chapter 7, biggest thing that I got away from this is the garden analogy. Um, we in if I'm totally curious, has anybody here ever tended to do a real garden, like an actual area of soil?
Yes,
Yeah, I was gonna
absolutely.
say, Manny, yeah.
My
So
my grandmother and my momo, bro, it's like their baby. Like they
no
be
way, that's
yeah,
cool. That's cool.
actually
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
is.
my grandma did taught me, and I actually grew some real strong. I used to live in California, so I grew some good stuff. Okay, I'm gonna say
Nice.
that and leave it at
potatoes.
that.
Greens, beans, tomatoes. Yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean my mom here and my siblings, they grow like tomatoes and cucumbers and a couple berries and basic stuff like that. I think they want to grow pumpkins soon too. But besides the point, um, oh, my friends are garden experts and I'm always like, oh, I'm terrible at growing gardens. I feel you. I feel you, bro. I don't keep plants because like I feel like I don't know. That being said though, there you could you when you have a garden, right? You have plants, what you're actually trying to grow, and then there's the weeds that grow alongside it, and it's completely natural. It's not like you have to invite the weeds in, they're just there. That's kind of how it works too in our mind when we have thoughts and we have ideas and we have goals, right? And we have these dreams. Those are the fruits. Those are the fruits that we're trying to reap and we're trying to sow, right? He said, I'll pay child support on the plants. Hey, yo. That's crazy, bro. That's all I can do, right? Hell yeah. Um, bro, there's some things, bro, literally there's some things you can't even like real shit. There's some things you can't even pay child support for. Like your mind, you gotta like I'm oh my gosh. He came up with that bar on the spot. That's so funny. You made me lose my focus, dog. Why'd you do that? Oh my God. Long story short, our positive thoughts, our positive ideas, our dreams, those are the plants, right? Exactly, don't invite weeds. They don't have to be invited though. Like, obviously, don't invite them in. And a lot of people do unconsciously or subconsciously just because of their old habits and the things that leave space for those weeds to come in, right? People try to break habits. I've personally tried to break habits in my own life. And it's really, really hard to do that unless you fill it with something that's good, right? If you have a garden and you have a certain amount of square footage of space for plants, and you only fill like a couple parts of it with plants, the rest of the space is going to be filled by weeds. Like you don't have to try to invite weeds in. It's just going to happen naturally. So that's what you do when you invite weeds in by lack of preparation. proper preparation prevents poor performance. That was the P's that I was taught to push the P's, right? Lack of preparation. So you have to prepare to plant your seeds and sow those all of the space that you can, right? So that just goes back to being intentional, right? Being intentional with your time and your actions and your thoughts, especially because as we think, we do. So um, you just have to constantly tend to the soil. You constantly have to train your mind. Don't underestimate it. I think it was really cool when Sam put in the chat, he said, those who don't have 10 minutes to meditate, it's like saying, I don't have time to put gas because I'm too busy driving. That's true. Yeah. Because if you're too busy, thinking about what to plant, or if you're too busy researching the different things to plant, and you're too busy watering like one of those plants in particular just because you're so obsessed about it, but you're not worried about the other things in the garden that you genuinely have to have attention for. Otherwise, it'll be weeded. It'll be weeded up. So, um, I'm pretty sure there's a phrase, boredom is the devil's workplace, or idle hands. Somebody type in the chat exactly what I'm trying to say there, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like idle hands is the devil's workplace. You know what I'm saying? Like you really have to just use your time intentionally, and that's what I've been working to do more now than honestly ever I have, because the goals and the dreams and the results I'm trying to get are bigger than I've ever gotten before. In the ways that I'm trying to do it, not just assess, not just how, but really with who, and I mean how especially too, honestly. But yeah, guard your thoughts. You have to guard it. You have to really weed those. You have to de-weed the weeds, right? Like you really have to. Anytime a weed pops up, you have to pull it out before it starts multiplying. That's another key point there. Um, but yeah, that being said, going into chapter 8, this is something as well. It's kind of funny because I saw a reel about this literally the other day. Um, a lot of my feed on Instagram I see pop up is from Andrew Tate, and I know, right? Patrick just rolled his eyes, shook his head. He's like, "Yeah, this guy." But no, for real. It's because he spits some bars sometimes. I mean, sometimes he's honestly pretty cheesy and it's funny, but other times he actually has game. And one game thing that he said was that ever since the beginning of time, people, men and women, have had a certain fire in them to go out and do things, right? And make a difference and just literally have a fire that's in your spirit. And if you don't have that in the day and age we live in, it's because somebody said something, whether that was yourself saying it to yourself or somebody else saying it to you, or somebody did something to you, whether that be external or internal, whether you did it to yourself or outside of you, that has squashed that flame over time. Because it doesn't just happen in one day, it happens continuously over time. And we just have to be conscious of that and add fuel to the fire. So the I mean, the story pretty much lines out like follow your purpose. And really, in order to follow your purpose, you have to know what that purpose is. And that's been something I've been locked in on recently. Um, just knowing exactly what that is so that I exactly know what I'm following. Does that make sense? So with that being said, because if you don't have that lighthouse, right, that clarity, then you will go from place to place, thing to thing, never really going anywhere in particular, right? Like if you're out at sea and you're trying to get to a lighthouse, but you see like a bunch of different lights everywhere and you're going like light to light, but you're always in the water just going like you'll never dock somewhere. You'll never have an end destination journey, right? So you just got to break down that purpose into clear steps. That's the biggest thing too. Like if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And these are the things I've heard a million times, but it's funny as we continue on our journey, you can't ever take these things for granted. Like these phrases, right? These idioms or whatever you call them. Like probably heard the phrases like that 100 times, but it never gets less relevant the more you hear it. Especially the deeper you go into your development and into your journey, right? Into your purpose. Honestly, these things become even more essential to follow. Um, like Marcos has said a million times before, if you're too big for the small things, you're gonna be too small for the big things. I love that because it's so true. And um these small things are are really big, and you got to make sure that you're not too big for them, right? Um, yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for the chapters. I just want to give a shout out to the team. Um, all everybody in this call is here today, this morning, intentionally. You actually took the time, and you're still on here an hour and a half later, developing and making time to get this work in. So I appreciate y'all for doing this with me. Mikkel, want to pass it over?
Hey, well, appreciate the vibes, Peasy. Like from everybody. Yeah, I've been snapping today. I was nervous to go at the end. I'm like, dude, yeah. No, I'm just playing. Ultimately, one of the main reasons I was a little nervous is because I didn't finish chapter 9, y'all. Reading was hefty. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Well, it's
Reading was
only
definitely
only
thick.
chapters 7 and 8. I don't
Oh,
know.
for real?
It's listed. Like you even shouted me out last week, bro, about listing the chapters. They're
Dude,
listed
I
there, bro.
swear I thought I said
Seven,
7, 8, and 9, bro. And I was
7.
reading 9 like, shit, man, I'm not gonna finish this, B.
No, because I thought I heard
Oh,
somebody say chapter 9, and I'm like, yeah, it's not chapter 9. It's just chapters. I peeped how big chapter 7 was, which is why there was only two chapters for the reading.
well, well, my boy, we in the game then. What's up, y'all? We good. You know what I'm saying? We smooth.
He said, I want to go last. I want to go last. I'm not done.
Listen here, I was over here trying to read it and was like, there's no way I can focus on squad right now and finish chapter 9 because this thing is thick. So I appreciate the vibes. Shout out Marcus for writing that out. Maybe I should actually pay attention to what he writes in my actual life. But in that, yes, thick with two C's, no K. You know what I'm saying? That type of thick. But in that though, yeah, this book and reading has definitely been phenomenal. This book club has been phenomenal. And I appreciate y'all really, those of you who hop on every single Saturday and really take part and also just actively do the reading that's required each week and pay attention and get in tune and taking part in this act of Kaizen with us all. This is literally part of the process of renewing your mind on the daily and actively growing. So it's dope, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. I spoke on chapter 7 a bit last week, just about like the garden and everything else there. Oops, I'm over here trying to heat up a waffle. And yeah, I'm gonna just real quick breeze through some of my notes from the section because ultimately that's where it's at. So I'm gonna start with just a few screenshots of bars that I took. One, because honestly, you guys touched on a lot of what I had down in my notes. Essentially, like first part is about your mind, second part is about you really keeping watch, third part is really about just actively growing in that self leadership. And so when I was looking at this chapter, I just screenshotted a few little sections that were like, what's the word? What word am I looking for? Starts with a P, and I've been saying it. I was saying it all last week on the call. Profound. Some profound bars, real quick, that I found in the reading. One, all your thoughts will be focused on your definite objective. You won't have time to waste time. Valuable mental power will, therefore, not be wasted on trifling thoughts. You will automatically erase the worry habit and become far more effective and productive. Interestingly, you will also have a deep sense of inner harmony, as if you are somehow being guided to realize your mission. It is a wonderful feeling. I love it. Julian offered gleefully. I heard Marcus briefly talk about like how at the end of the day, you will be guided to your mission. And it just reminded me of that specific bar because when I was reading it, I was like, dude, that is exactly how the hell I've been feeling. In the past week of my life, I've had quite a few. Well, I guess I'm gonna just be honest and transparent. They've been like just trifling thoughts. And I was like, dude, I'm not wasting my time on any of these mental thoughts, like at all whatsoever. And this like process of the inner renewal and the process of just understanding what your soul life purpose is, finding that purpose and actively walking in it. It's a crazy process, y'all, because your purpose consistently stays the same yet changes and evolves. Like we talked about last week, it transcends. And so honestly, it's dope to be able to go through this with squad and just talk about all of these things and just come to these realizations together as well. Because ultimately, if we are all on the same page, our continued mastermind continues to renew us each and every single week, especially when we can realize these things together. That's why we always say it's not about who reads the most books, it's about who reads the right books the most times, truly. Because once you understand this information, as the sages did, you can live a fulfilled life no matter what that life looks like. Boom. Definitely was a vibe. Second bar. I think Mateo just talked about it as I caught that call. But he said, my friend saying that you don't have time to improve your thoughts and your life is like saying you don't have time to stop for gas because you're too busy driving. Eventually it'll catch up with you. I know somebody had just mentioned that. It's so real, but it's so crazy how many times I hear people literally talk about, like, even book club, for instance, or showing up on a Wednesday night for the value session, or just like actively reading and going through personal development, or like working on themselves or staying focused on the task at hand. And people will literally say that exact sentence so many damn times. It's really crazy. And I just want everybody to be mindful as we continuously go forward, not only to one, hold yourself accountable, but also now that you know, hold other people accountable. Because real life, like, eventually it's going to catch up with you. Eventually it's going to catch up with them. You must consistently work on these things. You must actually take the time. And we all have things in our life that we act like we don't have time to improve when we actively do. There's 24 hours in a day, and you get to prioritize those 24 hours. So you're really just not choosing to prioritize that area of growth. And that choice is bringing an effect into your life, because every cause literally has an effect. So in that, you want to change your life, change your life. You know what I'm saying? That's really what it was and what it said to me. And I was like, that's a bar. So let me screenshot that. Another one. It was the old British novelist, Pat talked about this a little bit. He said, an old British novelist whose work my father loved to read. One must not follow the clock. It's funny that you talked about your dad. He talked about his dad. One must not follow the clock and the calendar to blind him to the fact that each moment of life is a miracle and a mystery. In business, I've heard it like this: those who are willing to work without looking at the clock will eventually not have to work. Period. Like, that's all it is, y'all. Like, eventually you will gain everything that you are searching for if you stop literally searching for it and just do what you need. Excuse me, do what you know needs to actually be done. It's literally focusing on the process. And then from there, when he talked about goals in there as well, I'm kind of jumping around because, as I said, I was literally trying to finish chapter 9, so everything is hefty and where it is in my mind. But as he talked about goals, I just literally thought about Unlimited and like the goal setting program that we have here. Yeah, it's crazy because we've never read this book before. I'm saying, but we definitely in tune. We definitely in tune. Like, quick pat on the back for every part of TGF. We definitely in tune, because ultimately, exactly what the sages are doing is exactly what we are doing and teaching our people how to do consistently, which is actively set goals in all areas of your life, not just the outer ones. Like, a goal to get a Ferrari is lit, but a goal to be a better father is better. Why? Because being a better father will in tune get you more intentional, so that Ferrari actually becomes a byproduct of the better person that you become. We always talk about success is literally about the person that you become versus the things that you do. Yes, overall happiness leads to achievement, or excuse me, overall life in itself is about achievement, which literally leads to that happiness. But that achievement's got to be bigger than material things, or else you feel unfulfilled. And it's because you got to hit those areas of your spiritual life, of your health, of your wealth, like literally of your relationships, everything. You got to encompass all of that. And when you set goals, it's got to be very intentional. So it was fire. Another thing was honestly stuck out to me. I'm gonna tell y'all a story about it. Why? But it was now 7 minutes past midnight. Remarkably, I didn't feel the least bit tired. When I shared this with Julian, he smiled once again. You have learned yet another principle for the enlightened living. For the most part, fatigue is a creation of the mind. Fatigue dominates the lives of those who are living without direction and dreams. Let me give you an example. Have you ever had an afternoon at the office where you were reading your dry caseworks, or excuse me, case reports, and your mind started to wander and you started to feel sleepy? From time to time, John answered, not wishing to reveal the fact that this was his modus operandi. He says, sure, most of us feel drowsy at work on a regular basis. Yet, if a friend calls on the phone to ask you if you want to go out to the ball game that night, or ask you for advice on his golf game, I no doubt that you would spring to life and every trace of your fatigue would vanish. Is that a fair assessment? And he goes, that's fair, counselor. And it's real life. Like, how many times do we literally be like, oh, I'm too tired to hop on book club today. Oh, I'm too tired to do this. Oh, I'm too tired to do that. You're actually not. You're literally just focused on the wrong things and you are literally placing self limitations on yourself because I don't feel tired at all whatsoever. And somehow I went to sleep at 7:40 this morning. I was up writing my book all night long and looked up and it was light outside. I got this black curtain in my office, so I don't be knowing what time it is. I just be working. And I'm literally going through knocking out chapter after chapter after chapter after chapter after chapter after chapter after chapter. And I look up, I'm like damn near finished. I got like 3 chapters left to actually finish in that thing. Then the book is done. But it just reminded me of that. Like fatigue is such a facade. Like you ain't actually tired, bro. You don't like what are you talking about? You just don't have your purpose and don't have your mission laid out to the point where you know exactly what you need to do. Because if you did, you'd be doing it, I promise. You would wake up each and every single day, regardless of how your body feels, sick, tired, whatever the hell it is, and you'd go to work, period. The more clarity you have, the more power you have. Because in that clarity, you can focus. It's one of the reasons why I played that song this morning. Shout out Chi Town. Profound bars in that thing. You know what I'm saying? Y'all should definitely go listen to that. But in that, it's really like one technique that he talked about is literally just self-examination. And it's huge because ultimately, y'all, you have to examine your life and it's like a GPS. You can't get to where you're going if you don't know where you are. So you have to take the time to actually like examine where you're at, how you're thinking, how you're moving, what you're focused on, what's actually leading different outcomes into your life. You've got to take real inventory of that. And then you've got to get clear on exactly what you want to do, how you want to do it, who you want to be while you're doing it. And then from there, you can actually go to put in work. And even if you don't know the how of all of that, if you know the what, and then you're like, okay, that's what I'm doing, and you just decide, from there, you just literally go do the next best thing available to your person. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is. Take one step. And all of a sudden, literally, I loved the way that he put it. I don't know if this is in chapter 9 or 8, but he talked about the mind is like a guided missile. It's like a heat seeker. And all you got to do is just literally find the target. And once it's locked in, period. And your mind will go to work on bringing the things right into your life. God will go to work bringing the things right into your life because you'll literally be leading a righteous living and you'll be focused on that faith. And what will happen is all of a sudden things start to look like they're just miraculously happening. But ultimately, between you and God, you're literally creating these miracles. It's honestly a beautiful thing when you really think about it, when you sit back and you realize, like, man, each moment is full of mystery, but it's also full of just so much presence that it's damn near overwhelming when you really get to understand and feel it and sit in that moment. And each and every single moment can be like that. And shout out Marcus. I heard Sam talk about it. He's literally trained his mind. Bro, when you do this enough, we've been doing this every Saturday for like the last almost 4 years now. You know what I'm saying? In that Bible study been going on like 2 years. Freaking like Wednesday night value sessions been going on for 4 years. Honestly, for me and Marcus, 6, 7 years. You know what I'm saying? So in that, like, this isn't a new habit, and don't compare somebody else's net worth to your self worth because you're in the beginning of the journey. Like you've literally just got to start the process. And as you start to build up your own self worth and net worth, you'll understand that the longer you do these things and the more consistent you do these things, what happens is that mental focus, that mental sharpness, that clarity of where you are, what you're doing, who you're doing it with, just becomes more and more clear. But I invite everybody to like actually dig in on these calls and the information that we bring Because as I'm reading this, I was thinking about value sessions that we've done over the last 365 days, where we've talked about every single principle that we've read. One of our leaders has literally talked about different pieces of the puzzle. If you actually lean in to everything that is here, I'm telling you, there's a whole nother level of life that we can play at. And that I think is what Julian was coming back to really put people on game. Like, yo, there's another level. For some reason, everybody's very consistently living down here, and we don't have to. You get to choose. You can literally live up here. You can actively be like in anticipation of the greatness that is walking into your life. Therefore, you, as you are expecting it, great things consistently happen. Like I talk to a lot of my friends and they're like, all right, bro, what great thing you got to tell me now? Like it's literally just the great thing that I've been focused on. But ultimately, it's because I'm focused on great things that even in the midst of crazy chaos, great things consistently happen. Period. So in that dig in, y'all, I'm excited truly because this book has been profound. That literally it's my definition of this book, profound for real, because it's definitely just brought a whole nother level of awareness and understanding into the principles that we literally live by and teach. So it's honestly dope. And then as we're going through these things, our character, our mindset, our focus, our clarity is just being refined even more. So as you consistently go through this process, that's what helps you build your character, period. And building your character naturally, because they coincide with one another, it naturally builds more results too, period. Because when you step in a room, your presence is felt. Why? Because you've worked on your presence. You've worked on your character, and people know it when you're walking around with your head held high, because most people are walking around with their head down low. So in that, it's literally like you got to walk in it, you got to step in it, you got to be in it, you got to live in it. I love that he talked about basically he talked about journaling and as well as like meditation, the whole nine yards, just literally taking out time to visualize your highest self every single day. Marcus talks about writing your goal cards and reading them to yourself every day in the mirror. How many people actively look at your goal cards every day? I'm willing to bet that if you don't, you probably worry about not getting to your goals every day. You can literally replace the thoughts. Because as I talked about, each of those negative thoughts that go inside of your mind is literally like a little gremlin. And every time that you listen to them, you put fuel on the fire and you make more of them. And it consistently builds up this habit of negative thinking. And that habit of negative thinking gets you absolutely nowhere because you're not focused on the process. You're not focused on the results. You're not focused on none of that. You're focused on lack. And out of scarcity only comes more scarcity. So inspect what you're expecting, period. And I believe that that was really like the premise of the entire two chapters, two and a half for your boy, but two chapters that it was going through. It's like, yo, inspect what you expect and watch what thoughts come inside of your mind, period. Be in tune and actually get it together. And so I was like, yo, I love it. I loved listening to everybody as well. It was a vibe. These are the moments I talked to my life coach about this earlier this week. It's crazy because even in my coaching, I'm like actively going through these things. We were talking about like what serves you in these three areas when it comes to your mind, when it comes to your soul, and when it comes to your body. What's serving you? What habits are serving you? What things in your life are serving you? What do you want to stop doing? What do you want to continue to do? And we broke this down on like a Venn diagram together this past Wednesday. And as we were going through, I was like, yo, this is phenomenal because it's really just helping me get even more clear on the path that I want to go down, you know? So in that, I encourage everybody to real life take out some time, think about these things. Shoot, if you need to, go get you a life coach. You know what I'm saying? They're pretty fire. But real life, like as you consistently just go through life, make sure that you are focused on growth, your own as well as others around you. And what'll happen is all of your goals will naturally start to happen. Because literally, as he talked about, you got to find your life purpose. Here, you got a certain set of skills, certain set of talents that set you apart and create your $1 million story. You got to figure out how to tell it. period, point blank. So I'm excited to watch everybody's growth consistently. I'm excited to help take part in these things. I'm excited to literally watch all of the success that we are literally attracting to us just come to fruition as well, because it's really cool to see everybody grow. Like, known most of y'all for over a year, all of y'all, except for Pat. Pat, you the new guy, but I love you, bro. I'm excited. And even just seeing your growth in the last few months as you've been with Squad and as you've been tuning in, because, bro, you've dug in. You've dug in. You are one of the newest, freshest people in the squad who is like dug in for real, for real. And you can see it evident in the way that you show up on calls versus the way that you were showing up on calls. Like, you can literally, we got the recordings, bro. So you know what I'm saying? Every once in a while, I go and look at these things just to literally see everybody's growth and see where everybody's at, see how everybody's doing. And when we call and check in, I'm like, dude, this is awesome to hear. You know what I'm saying? So consistently go through, consistently do these things, y'all. Whether you're doing them with us or without us, just focus on your growth. I feel like that's the overall premise here. And I'm just grateful to be in Kaizen with y'all. And that's kind of my closeout. Marcus, you can wrap us up for the announcements for next week.
Okay, boom. Well, I appreciate everyone's takes, fire and desire, for real, not for play. Boom. Let me check the events under the book club tab so that we know what chapters we're reading next week. Yeah, I be doing it for me just as much as I do it for y'all because I don't know. I got like 30, we got 60,000 thoughts a day, apparently. Okay, next week, chapters 9 and 10. I repeat, chapters 9 and 10. If you read chapter 9, just reread that thing. And then chapter 10, I'm excited. I believe we have the following week as well, where we'll wrap up the book to end out the month of August. And then come September, we'll have another book. So if you want to know what book we're going to be reading next, make sure you tune in next week. I love y'all. God bless. And as always, we'll see you at the top. The bomb's way too crowded. Peace, fam. Have a good one.